Hello guys, it's Mr. Gutierrez. Thank you for taking my APUS History Dual Credit class. I know today is going to be a lot of anxiety. I know you guys are going to be wondering what to expect and how am I going to be successful. So one thing I want to do with this first video that you guys are being assigned is to really convey, to really communicate to you guys what the expectations are, the philosophy behind all the work you're going to be doing, and really get you guys comfortable, or at the very least understanding of what we're going to be doing in this class. And the one thing I don't want you ever to feel in this class is that Mr. Gutierrez, Mr. G, is just giving us an assignment to keep us busy. It's just giving us this work just to get us not to cause trouble and just to put a grade in the grade book. I want you guys to understand that every time I give you an assignment, every time I give you something to do, it's because there is meaning behind it. And I want you guys to walk away, or at least shut down the computer thinking that. So first things first, let's get into what this presentation really is going to be about. So how am I doing work in AP US History and Dual Credit? What is this madness? What is all this stuff that we're doing in here? So it's 3 levels of the type of work you're going to be doing. The first level, the foundation of this work, is going to be your content knowledge. And I'll go into detail what that looks like, but that is the base. That is a lot of your time is going to be spent reading the textbook and watching videos. And I'll go into a little bit more detail what that looks like. The second level of work that you're going to be doing in this class is historical analysis. You're going to take that content knowledge and you're going to use it to do analysis of primary sources, mostly primary sources, actual pictures, graphs, cartoons, or writings that come from the past. And the biggest thing you're going to do, the hardest thing you're going to do in this class, is historical argument. You're going to take all that analysis that you've done and you're going to make an argument, and you're going to use your analysis to support what you're saying. You're going to use that analysis as the support for your argument. So let's get into the basics. The first thing is, let's look at historical knowledge. Let's actually look at the content that you're going to be reading about, you're going to be watching, and you're going to pretty much memorize in your head. So content knowledge, where do I get it? Where's the work, or rather, where's that knowledge going to come from, and what kind of work am I going to do to get it? So part of it is you're going to get it from the textbook. I'm going to assign you pages. I'm going to try and be very deliberate and purposeful. I'm going to tell you exactly what pages, what sections you need to read in your book. That coupled with online lecture. So I'm going to assign you YouTube videos where I break down the reading and I break down the essential stuff that you have to understand, the knowledge that you have to come to class with, because you're doing this stuff outside of class. And you're going to watch these videos, and with the book, hopefully these things together will give you the content that you need to do your analysis later on in class. The other aspect is your notes. You're going to have study guide questions in which I'm going to ask you questions to help you think about what you're reading and what you're watching in the videos. Here's another thing I would like you to think about too. Have your own notes that you're writing on the side. This is what the best students do. The best students that are the most successful in my history classes in the past write their own detailed notes reflecting what they're thinking as they're watching the video and as they're reading the textbook. This is aside from your study guide. So here's why this is important. If you come to me saying, "Sir, I don't understand what I'm reading in the book," and that's okay. Reading nonfiction can be a lot harder than reading fiction. I like reading novels. I like reading good stories. But when I read a history book, a different thought process has to be applied. A different way of thinking has to be applied when reading nonfiction versus fiction. And that can be difficult. That's a skill. And that's a skill that develops more and more over time the more you read nonfiction. So when you come and bring me your notes, if you have a notebook and you bring this to me, that's a window into what you're thinking while you're reading, or what you're thinking while you're watching the lecture videos. And that's going to help me see what's in your head. So I need to see that. Either that, or I'll look at your study guides to see what kind of answers you're writing. And that's a big reason why when you do your study guides, it has to be in your words. Because if you're simply just copying out of the book, that's not showing me what you're thinking. That just shows me that you can copy from a textbook, and I don't want that. So doing this stuff outside of class is very important. And another thing is too, it's a big reason why I cannot lecture to you during class time. We only have so much time in class, and I really want to spend that class time coaching you on how to think about that content, not giving you the content. So you have to come in before class starts, already watched the videos and already read the textbook and already done the study guides. And then we're going to use that stuff for our next piece, which is historical analysis. You're going to take that content that you did outside of class and use it in class for historical analysis. So imagine you came in, you have all this content knowledge in your brain, and then I give you a picture. Let's imagine this picture. We're talking about the Great Depression, and you read about the Great Depression in your textbook, and you watched the lecture video on the Great Depression, and then I give you this picture in class and say, okay, let's make sense of this. And you're looking at it, it's like, wait a second. I read about people not working, so what is going on with this picture? What can I do with this picture showing people working? Well, maybe you can read about people building the Empire State Building during the Great Depression, showing that people still wanted to work. Despite the Great Depression going on, people were hopeful and wanted to work, and this is something they always wanted to do during the Great Depression. So you're applying that content knowledge to this context in 1932 of people working on this skyrise, maybe the Empire State Building in 1932. So you're taking that content knowledge that you did outside of class and applying it to a primary source, an actual document, a picture, a cartoon from that time period, and trying to make sense of it. That's historical analysis, trying to put it in its historical context. So that brings us to our next step, which is historical argument. You've done the analysis. You took that content from outside of class, and in class you've analyzed these documents, and the final piece is going to be this historical argument. So imagine you just didn't do it for this picture. Let's say you have another document. Maybe it's a narrative. Maybe it's some kind of diary from someone going through the Great Depression that wasn't working, and they're demonstrating how hard it was. Maybe it's perspective of a woman. Maybe it's perspective of a white woman, a black woman, a Latino woman. And she's explaining like how the Great Depression's affecting her. And you're thinking about the stuff you read about in the textbook and applying it to this person's story. And then maybe you have a piece of legislation. Maybe you have a speech by FDR here, and he's talking about how the government is trying to pass laws to help the people during the Great Depression. So you have workers working during the Great Depression. You have a woman's perspective during the Great Depression, and then you have the actual government or maybe the president's perspective in the Great Depression. And you take all these pieces and you put it together to make your argument. The Great Depression was hard on many Americans and affected their ability to make money and their sense of worth. However, throughout the period, both private citizens and the government remained hopeful and worked towards a solution to fix the economic crisis. So that is your argument that you're going to make. And then you're going to use your analysis that you use your content knowledge to understand to support the argument. So all of this starts at the bottom, this foundation, this content knowledge that you're doing outside of class. And then when you come into class, I'm going to help you analyze documents, primary sources. I'm going to pose questions to you guys that are going to help you use that content that you walked into class with. And then finally, the end piece is this historical argument that you're going to make. So let me get down to this basic understanding is why do we need to understand history? We need to understand history because history is about people in the past. And our brains today are not that much different than the way people thought in the past. So if we understand history, if we understand how people were thinking in the past, then we have a better understanding of ourselves today, because the way we think today is really not that much different than the way people think in the past. The people in the past have the same emotions, the same wants, the same desires as we do today. So if we understand history and we understand how people thought in the past, we have a better understanding of ourselves today. So hopefully you guys understand what we tried to do today. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. Let me know in the discussion that you're going to post today your thoughts on this video. And I look forward to teaching you throughout the year. Thank you guys. Thank you for your time.